Hey folks, how you doing? Pastor Chuck Blair here. Great to have you joining me this morning. And today we're looking at the idea of taming our thoughts. Like, how do we tame our thoughts? And there's a few things about it, just in terms to get us started. It's interesting watching as a pastor, over the years. There's what there's what we think people are going to ask about, and then there's what people actually ask about. And of course, being a pastor, we like to think, at least I like to think, wow, people are going to come to me with these big theological questions, and they really don't. They come with much more practical, actually far more important questions. And this little humorous aside is a famous pastor, Andy Stanley, once said, churches are answering questions people aren't asking. And I think that can be really true. And one question I get consistently is how do I tame these thoughts in my head? And I don't have like the answer for that. I do want to sort of apply what we've been looking at here in terms of the story of creation into how that might work. So the passage we've been looking at, we're going to look at it again because I just think it's a beautiful way to kind of get at that controlling of thought. And God said, let the earth produce each living soul according to its kind, the beast and that which moves, and the wild animal, each according to its kind. And it was done. And God saw that it was good. He makes all these things and sees that it's good. And then he asks of humanity, it goes on a little later on. He asks of humanity, could we please find my page here? Could we please always remember humanity? I think God is saying here, your job is to take charge of these things. Your job is to steward these things. And we talked about the earth is filled yesterday. Our job is to steward them, and the earth is to be filled. In other words, we have these thoughts and we have these things, and God is saying, look, steward these things and allow them to grow and proliferate and allow the earth to be full. And that's really good. Like who unless you struggle with some kind of mania, who doesn't want more good thoughts in their life? I think we all do. And there's a lot of negative thoughts that can get the better of us. So that's what I want to come at. Like, how is it that we master these thoughts? How is it that we tame them? Well, step one would be understanding that look, thoughts come and go, and it would be really neat to think of it as a light switch, and it's not. It's more, how do you handle the traffic flow than how do you stop the traffic, if that makes sense. So how do we handle the traffic flow? Well, the first part is a sacred no, and I think this is a really significant one. It is so easy to get into what Rabbi Jonathan Sachs called, this is such a great way, folks, what he called competitive victimization. And that can be a complete racket in our heads that can get our thoughts just spinning, where we're constantly thinking about all the ways in which we are a victim of our circumstances. And it can even get a little competitive, where we decide that we're more a victim than they are, and blah, blah, blah. I know I certainly can do that. We can do it at a personal level. We can do it at an institutional level. And the fact is, folks, there's very little there for you. And it's not that we aren't victims at times. I mean, I want to be clear about that, and it's not that there aren't legitimate reasons to say, hey, you know what? I feel like a victim in this. Obviously, there are legitimate times for that. And we just want to be really careful of competitive victimization, because that will unleash a whole chain of thoughts that we really can't master them. Because how can you master a thought where you're not the master anymore? Where you're just the victim. So that's thought number one. Thought number two is just think in terms of just core responsibility. That idea that we all have to really take self-responsibility and try to figure out, okay, so given that, what can I do here? And here's one from Byron Katie, very famous one. Probably most of you already heard of this, but it's a great little way to get some control of our thoughts. You take what the thought is, X, Y, or Z, and then you think, what am I with that thought? And literally think through, what am I with that thought? When I'm with that thought about this, I'm bup, 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 bup. And then think, what am I without that thought? What am I without that thought? So when am I with that thought? What am I without that thought? And I'm embarrassed to say I forgot the first two there. The first two is it true? But you ask that first off, is it true? Is the thought true? And then you have to ask again, are you absolutely sure it's true? Because so much of the time, right, we think something's true, And then we really know, like, I don't really know that. I don't really know why that person did that. I really don't have any clue, yet I'm sure I know why. That's the idea of the true, absolutely true. And then what am I with that thought? What am I without that thought? And the beautiful part here, folks, like, and this gets back to the idea of God's blessing, is when we remove those thoughts, when we get clear, like, okay, what am I without that thought? I'm this, and this. That's the original blessing. It goes right back to the beginning of the story of creation. We get rid of that stuff, and the good stuff just is the default. I mean, that's such a key part of Christianity, of Christian New Church thought, of Ethan Orthodox thought is really grounded in that. Judaism very much grounded in that. That the good stuff is the default, and our work is getting rid of what stands in the way. And folks, you can see where competitive victimization, it's not going to help that process out very much at all. So friends, that's what to think about today, with taming our thoughts, is tame your thoughts around, just the basic processes of, is it true? Do I absolutely know it's true? What am I with that thought? What am I without that thought? And you may also need to do this. You may also need to, if you're really struggling, really try to change your environment. I mean that in a very physical sense. I know that I have friends who are much better. The thoughts are much better when I'm around them. And I have other people who, no fault of theirs. It's really all on me, who I tend to fall right into competitive victimization with. So if you can't really get Byron Katie's thing, which some days I certainly can't, do think about, like, how do I physically change my environment? How do I physically change who I'm with? Because folks, just even put in your mind right now, who do you hang out with where your thoughts are just better? They just are. And I think that's community. That's the idea. We do this in the round, and we're all connected at a spiritual level. So there's some thoughts, my dear friends, on taming your thoughts this weekend. This week. I hope that is helpful. And with that, what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little meditation followed by prayer, followed by a blessing, followed by a little hello. And you can offer that hello on New Church Live's Facebook page. I'll be reading those. We do a little bantering back and forth. So friends, with that, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, bring you home. Amen. All right, friends. So if you'd like to leave a comment, you may do so on New Church Live's Facebook page. And you did want to say to folks that this weekend we have a very special service coming up on Sunday, and I certainly hope you can make it. It's based on a lot of these ideas around taming your thoughts, like how do we actually live in a new thought ballpark, so to speak, which certainly is a lot of fun. Oh, we got a lot of people today. All right. So let's give a little cheery hello to everyone who's joining us this morning. Natasha, my dear friend, so good to see you joining us from out there in Arizona. Very much on my heart this month. Paige, good morning to you, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. Chad, out in Oklahoma, good to see you, buddy. Linda, silence Bruno, a walking nature always helps. It does, and it's like yeah, it's when I get mired in my thoughts, I shut down. I don't move. I stick in one place. I don't walk. I don't talk. All that stuff. I just don't do it, which is too bad. Andre, you can shoot me a note privately. Susan, good morning. Hang out where your thoughts are better. I love that. Yeah, and it's true. So like yeah, just anytime we do that, there's just and the beautiful parts is like if I were to ask you right now, who is that person in a hot second, you tell me their name. And that I think really says something significant. Gene, good morning. Winter's back today. Yes, it is, and it is incredibly cold. Patricia, great to see you joining us this morning as well. Carl, always great to see you, buddy. Control versus letting go is a big challenge at times. Should I keep my hands on the wheel or let go? Yeah, right, right. I was laughing with somebody, Carl. Some days I feel like a skydiver jumping out of a helicopter, and usually I can get three limbs out, but I'm not letting go of that last hand. So anyhow, that last finger on the wheel, so to speak. Maybe that's the way you could put it. Uh, Mary writes, my thoughts get an adjustment listening to the 10 minutes of calm. Grateful. Thank you. Mary, it is really funny because if I was to say something that consistently resets my thoughts, it's having this chance to be here with you wonderful people in the mornings. And yeah, it makes a huge difference. Um, Brandon writes, have a great day, everyone, and totally agree with that, Brandon. Uh, Shannon writes, good morning to all. And Maria writes, great message today. Needed this at 4A. Yeah, well, I'm glad it resonated, folks. And just, I'm thinking the world of all of you, and just, prayers to all of you, and just closing, our thoughts and prayers are really with as well the people of the Ukraine today. That kind of stuff is tragic and hard, and we just want to be prayerful about it, and as a community of faith, that's what we can really offer. A lot of times people will say like, well, thoughts and prayers, what does that do? And I'm like, let me tell you, as somebody who's been through a couple really rough spots and some really hard circumstances, when people offer thoughts and prayers, they're actually offering a lot. So anyhow, that's a closing thought. Wishing you folks all the best. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.